Well, hello, that's me again. Today is actually the evening of the 31st, but this is the video for the February 1. I will be uploading it in the morning, so I hope so we're still alive and World War III didn't start by then, we just can listen to this video and discuss what is going to be discussed in it. And let me start with some, how to put it politely, strange thought on my part. I never thought until like 10 years ago that I'm some veteran, which I am, that I'm veteran of the armed forces of the Soviet Union, that I am military professional. I never kind of put it up front, for people and people who knew me and those who I met sometimes accidentally. I never said, oh yeah, I am, I'm this and that. I've been fighting with the guys from the Special Forces of Saturn in Marines in 1981, and I'm talking about full contact martial arts. And let me tell you, those guys, my God. So, and I have been dealing with, I knew many frogmen, I knew many people who are actually Navy SEALs. I can open you one actually secret. I actually did homeschool one present Navy SEAL. Very smart guy, a wonderful kid, and actually pretty damn good in terms of martial arts, and he's there. So, and he graduated some pretty good, let me put it this way, he has a degree in aerospace engineering, and I taught him physics and mathematics, and we fought, just for the heck of it, fought like, martial arts, showing things, kata, all that things. So, and I never thought about it as being something very special, because especially when you go through Soviet Union and you look at this, many people served. Some of them served, I don't know, like the staff writers or something like that, tapping machines and doing things. Others served at some kind of things like boiler station, and they served, were served. But many served in the front lines. Many people went through Afghanistan, including Marines, by the way. And so it's kind of like hey, normal thing, we just military professionals, and that's what we do. And it was only in the United States when I understood that, my gosh, you have all those kind of people, going around saying things, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm just Navy SEAL, I did this and that. And sure, yeah, I'm not, by any times try to diminish it, but let me show you something which I'm beginning to scratch my head with. But before we go, I want to show you what I'm talking about. And let me go and show you this. This is the Google Maps. This is the city of Baku, which is called Zich. It's the Zich, which is, as you can see yourself, kind of like area, which actually in Azeri language means dirt, but it contains this, as you in the red square. This is the campus of my former Naval Academy, and it's very large, and it also has the attachment to the Nakhichevansky school. It's sort of like the cadet school for the guys from the 9th to 10th grade. Now, nowadays, it was preserved at the Heydar Aliyev Military Institute for the Armed Forces of Azerbaijan, but it's still huge, but of course it doesn't contain anymore what used to be the weapon systems and those very sophisticated navigational complex of strategic missile systems. This is what we were studying. As you can see yourself, it's a very large place. But what you see here in red is what is called Sultan Cape. And Sultan Cape is where our basically rowing station was. We used those 6 oar boats. There were also what is called the division, small division, as not like division in the sense of the infantry division, but I'm talking about division, which is the small formation. I believe it was 6 or 7 small not motor boats. It's just kind of like small fishing boats without weapons, and which we were using to train just basic maneuvering in the what is called in the order information, just to give the sense of the maneuvering. And so, but the most important part in this, in Sultan, was the what is called the homestead of Pashets. And who was Mr. Pashets? And of course we knew him personally, we have been there. This is what is most important, because he was the guy and the legend who commanded actually the this. It's the school of the Pashets, Vitaly Georgievich. I knew him personally. I mean, personally in the sense that I knew him. We've been there and, constantly. And he was the guy, actually, who graduated the Naval Academy, and he became the captain of first rank. And he organized in 1940s already this homestead of Pashets, as it was known, because it was the Naval Spetsnaz school in which we have been involved. I mean, constantly. You just go to Cape Sultan and, as you can see yourself, after the ninth grade, he talks, I came to Baku and entered the Baku Naval Preparatory School, the first in the country at the time in the third year. By the way, if you don't know what it is, the preparatory school at that time was preparing to become a naval cadets. And one of the people who also went through it, you probably know him. He used to be actually the chief of the foreign intelligence, and he was prime minister, and even the foreign minister of Russia. It was Mr. Evgeny Primakov. So, I mean, I'm not going to go in the history of my Naval Academy. You will be surprised how many very famous people came out. But Mr. Pashets, Vitaly Georgievich, was the guy who organized this special Naval Spetsnaz school, as you can see yourself. Here's him young, and of course we knew him at that time, as you can see yourself, how he looked at the black and white photograph, the rightmost, in the right lower corner. And as he said, and he talks about it, we trained highly professional special forces. My guys underwent special mountaineering and diving training. We have created an artificial landfill here on Zich. Zich is this area where Naval Academy was, and still is there, actually. So, the forms and methods of personnel training were clearly debugged, but most importantly, we brought up courageous people, brought up cadres who had to be ready to immediately stand up for the defense of motherland. And he's talking about that, yeah, my pupils, his students, have progressed quite well. Several people, as far as I know, became admiral. Yes, he was taking the cadets, but not naval cadets. He was taking the guys who were serving what is called as enlisted, and they were training them. Some of them then stayed as the what is called midshipmen or NCO and continued, and some of them went into the naval academies like we did and became, yeah, cadre officer. And here is the thing, why I started all that, and why you will think that, oh yeah, whatever he talks about. I'm just grew up, it just happened so, grew out of the basically environment, which is combat trained and very serious military professional environment, and we have been taught, obviously, as cadre officers, and extremely, some of them highly classified even today, pieces of technology and methods and in tactics and operations and things of this nature. And don't forget, when you graduate from Naval Academy in the Soviet Union at that time, as it is true for today, your second specialty, apart from your main specialty, was, guess what? Platoon commander, start the senior junior officer of the Marines. I know what I have it. So most of all of my classmates have it. And actually, some of my classmates actually fought in their campaigns in Chechnya and things of this nature, and commanded actually formations. But why I talk about it? I talk about it because of that. Here's Eric Prince. Oh, the guy. Oh, yeah, he's tough. Yeah, he is former Naval SEAL. He is the guy who commanded or owns, rather, BlackRock. This, a private military company, and he is talking about here and here's his CV. Prince was accepted into the United States Naval Academy and attended for 3 semesters before leaving, explaining that he loved the Navy but disliked the Academy. The reason most likely he disliked the Academy is very simple, because at that time the U.S. Naval Academy was still considered a very good engineering school, and you have a lot of engineering things related related to the weapon systems, navigation, things of this nature. Well, he disliked it. He went on to receive Bachelor's of Arts in Economics from Hillsdale College in 1992. During this time at Hillsdale, he served as a volunteer firefighter and as a cold water diver for the Hillsdale County Sheriff's Department. Prince eventually became an emergency medical technician. Hey, it's fine, but the guy obviously is not the cadre officer. He never became really cadre officer in a sense when you are grown up through the academic environment of military, any military. So, however, after college, Prince was commissioned as an officer in the United States Navy via Officer Candidate School. Anybody who wants to know what Officer Candidate School is, just watch the wonderful movie, The Officer and the Gentleman. It's Richard Gere and Deborah Winger, wonderful classic movie. That's about Officer Candidate School. Prince then received orders to basic underwater demolition SEAL training and blah, 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 blah. So he is the, basically the owner. He's more economics guy in terms of owning the, this BlackRock or whatever the name of it is, or Academy, whatever the hell the name of those. I lost count of the military companies. And I will explain to you later why they are not Wagner, or former Wagner, they're not even close. But look at this. Here's this guy who comes out recently with the profound thought about himself. So here's Eric Prince. There have never been any purges in the U.S. Army. He's explaining why this is so bad in Army. Well, obviously he's wrong, but precisely because he never was a really cadre officer which went through the serious command of the some formations. So in his talking about, the how army, which is bad. I mean, the situation in the U.S. Army is pretty bad. But here he comes to, look at the stress of industrial base trying to cope with the supply of Ukrainian artillery. This is a country of 50 million. Well, the guy evidently has he really need to update himself. It's not 50 million anymore. Fighting on a limited front? Seriously? Well, Eric Prince has to get a basic, operational strategic education, because obviously this limited front is 2,000 kilometers long, around 2,000. And so he said, and not only can the United States not keep up with the pace of their firing, but so can Spain, Great Britain, Czechoslovakia, whatever. There's no Czechoslovakia. I don't know if he knows it, but there are two countries, Czech Republic and Slovakia. But hey, he's Navy SEAL. Yeah, sure, so he knows how to kill. Good, So, however, and he comes with this thing. The main contribution of the United States to World War II was our industrial potential. Well, it's certainly true, no doubt about it. However, after that, he begins to speak about things he definitely has no idea. Think about who defeated the Nazis. These were the Soviets. Well, at least good for that. Great that he says that. And you know what? I respect him for that. It's, important. However, they lost tens of millions of people. The Americans lost 250,000 men in the European theater of operation. But what allowed Zhukov to travel from Moscow to Berlin was 600,000 trucks and tens of thousands of planes from the United States. And here where I disagree with the guy, and again, listen, I respect his dedication and the fact that he became Navy SEAL and that eventually he runs whatever those, private military company. But as I already stated, once in a while you need to go back, so to speak, and I did it before, and you literally need to cut those grooves in people's brains to understand. Well, understand is not enough. You need to internalize the real proportions and relations between the data. So while I applaud Mr. Prince for all that he admits that Soviet Union won the war, but it has to be clearly stated, which he doesn't know, that actually Soviet Union received 3 times less Lend-Lease help from United States than actually Great Britain. So that's important to know. And so I want to go back and show you what is important here. Let's recall this document. You see, this is the document, Report on War Aid, furnished by the United States to the USSR from June 22, 1941 to September 20, 1945. And hey, make no mistake, it's great. And by the way, it wasn't only Zhukov. Obviously, Russians transferred some armies to the Far East, and defeated Kwantung army, as was actually negotiated and settled in Yalta. And so here it is, Foreign Economic Section, Office of Foreign Liquidation, Department of State. And let's go to the numbers which Eric Prince says. And again, make no mistake, I respect his background, I respect that he tried to be, but obviously he lacks the military view on larger issues. So let's start with this. Here we have this situation. Export, cumulative since June 22, 1941. As you can see yourself, very few things started to arrive really, in, how to put it, major numbers since 1942, 1943, really. Trucks, however, he is obviously a little bit high with his estimates. It wasn't 600,000, it was about 400,000, which is important, make no mistake. It's very important, but you also can see the army aircraft, as he calls. There were no actually tens of thousands. There was obviously more than 10,000. And let me show you. I showed these statistics to you. Here is the combat aircraft from the Lend-Lease by Russian documentation. And look at this. Russians very honestly counted all those aircraft. As you can see yourself, they started to arrive in the kind of hefty numbers, starting from 1943, when essentially the outcome of the war was decided. However, it doesn't mean that Russians are not grateful. They are. And as you can see yourself, the major aircraft which was provided to Soviet Union, obviously by the United States, as you can see yourself, those were P-39 Air Cobras and 39A King Cobra, which Russians love them. So as you can see yourself, all together with all types of aircraft which have been provided through 1945 to Soviet Union was 18,303. It's obviously a significant amount. However, read attentively what is underscored in the upper part. It was only 15% of the serial production of the Soviet Union. So Eric Prince should really be careful with his, so to speak, how to put it politely, numbers and his estimates, despite the fact that I give him a credit where he admits that actually it was Soviet Union which defeated it. However, we can go and further see actually shipments. As you can see yourself, the shipments really started to pick up already from 1943. And they really obviously, so they just grew by that time. As you can see yourself, they were very insignificant in 1941, 1942, which was using, again, guess what? House and lands. These are guys, cadre American officers who wrote one of the most important books in the World War II history in the English-speaking world. And he talks about that in conclusion from the how when Titans clashed. If the Western Allies had not provided equipment and invaded Northwest Europe, Stalin and his commanders might have taken 12 to 18 months longer to finish off the Wehrmacht. The result would probably have been the same, except that Soviet soldiers would have waited at the France's Atlantic beaches rather than meeting the Allies at Elbe. And these are cadre American officers, guys. Then, of course, we have this situation with the, I showed you before, I want to reiterate it. It's the sinews of war industry and Lend-Lease. This is from the United States Military Academy on the West Point. And this is the history, and which used to be. I don't think so they teach this anymore. But look at this, what they conclude. This is official, books on the history department by the supervision of the editor, Brigadier General Grias. And here what they write: although Lend-Lease was a great help from 1943 to the end of war, Soviets had no cause to feel unduly grateful. It had not arrived during their greatest peril, but only when they began to win the war anyway. Even when the goods were available in America, much time was lost in transport. There were just 3 practical routes. So, and yes, it's a valid argument. I agree with this argument. But Eric Prince has to understand that actually the production and the Lend-Lease help or aid, if you wish, which the United States presented to Russia, obviously there were significant contribution in terms of combat aircraft. And of course, again, as I said, during the buttons, my God, do you understand how important buttons are in the army? Oh, for that matter, for humanity. Without buttons, you not gonna wear anything really, and nobody knew at that time zippers. So what did they do? They ordered basically buttons in the United States. In the United States, honestly, was providing the enormous amount of buttons for the Red Army, for which Red Army obviously is very grateful, was very grateful. But that also, they're providing those buttons that freed some industrial capacity of the Soviet Union to produce something else. So in this respect, obviously, we should not forget that it's not only trucks. But truth is, Soviet Union, Red Army also produced enormous amount of trucks, also in hundreds of thousands. So obviously legendary Willys, which Russians call the Jeep, and Studebakers, they have been in immense help, but it has to be understood that mobility of the Red Army was very much already kind of sitting on the trucks or transferring to the trucks. So, and why I explain to this? I understand that the guy kind of, wants to do something about the U.S. Army, which is in apparel. I mean, basically, the whole U.S. military is in apparel, and I am on the record. You can quote me that United States lost the arms race. Now, United States lost the war. It's geopolitical event of the half a millennium. So, and I understand many frustrations, but let's be very straight. Let's get to the point that, hey, if you want to say something, please use some kind of the verified data. And one of the reasons I say this is because Eric Prince is a notable, high-profile figure. And he, whatever the names, I am just, I forgot their names, titles, whatever. So, but his military contractors, most of them are former military. So I knew some of them. So not all of them are bad guys. Some of them are just decent people. They just work their military job. But we have to understand also that Eric Prince has to understand that we are talking about the global event, and the special military operation does affect the situation with the U.S. Armed Forces. And you can say whatever you want, but they didn't study properly World War II, which was written, as I already stated, by Wehrmacht generals. And then they suddenly look at all this, and they don't recognize it. Well, obviously, the guy like me, with my background, you will be surprised. There are a number of us, people with background like mine, many of them graduated naval academies or military academies. They became the civilians, and some of them in 90s, like me, we just immigrated because obviously the Russia of 1990s, it was the country at war. And believe me, I have been also, and my family have been really affected by this because I became the participant of that. And believe me, let me put it this way, when you have the, brush off with death on number of occasions, you kind of become, more reserved about the whole situation and decided, we just immigrate to the United States. So, and Russia at that time, it's a long story. Now, once we straighten this thing out, I want to go and to speak about this. I'm talking about the Spetsnaz thing and all that. So I want to go to what Mr. Putin yesterday was stating about the situation in the special military operation. And he is talking about in the Gostinny Dvor, and he obviously talked to, number of people sitting there, important people, and he was talking about that, for example, update on the situation in the, not New World Order, the Russians call it NVO, but we call it SMO, Special Military Operation, and he's talking about Russian troops now moving the line further away from the Russian borders in order for those people who are basically, how to put it politely, the only thing they know is how to shell civilians. And he's saying that the Russian military is just pushing the enemy away from vital settlements. And this is the main motive of our guys who are fighting and risking their lives to defend the motherland, to protect our people. We are going to push it back. And he is talking about the situation that Ukrainian military is shelling civilians to divert attention from the failure of their so-called counteroffensive and provoke Russia to retaliate. This is a crime, without a doubt, absolutely. And then, of course, he continues to talk, and here are the kind of, bullet points, so to speak. He spoke about, obviously, it to some lengths. And he's talking about that Kiev shut down IL-76 with the help. Actually, it's becoming obvious that it was American Patriot complex. Now, well, this complex will be hunted down and destroyed, if not already. And he has stated that it can be assumed that the plane was shut down by mistake, but this is a crime in any case. Could it have been mistake? It certainly could have been, but obviously this is a really, really bad situation. And so he talks now about the prisoners exchange, because today there was a major prisoner exchange between Russians and armed forces of Ukraine. And he is talking about this exchange. Russia is not going to stop prisoner exchange with Ukraine. We will still take our guys if the Ukraine side, of course, is ready. And they still give us a signal that they are ready. Well, you are ready, you are welcome. And he's talking about, in terms of prisoners ratio between the parties, it's about 1 to 10, even more. We have thousands, they have several dozens, maybe hundreds. So that's what I'm trying to tell, that, yeah, it's even in terms of prisoners of war, actually the ratio itself is very huge, to put it politely, which explains to you the development of the special military operation. And when you look at this, and then you suddenly get the why Eric Prince talk about, the situation that, this U.S. Army is in this stage. Actually, it's United States which is in this horrendous state, and it just continues to be really bad. And I was finishing synopsis today for my book. I already passed the half of it anyway, and I wrote about the fact that the United States is a torn nation. It is obvious that elections of 2024 may end up splitting the country in roughly half, because after what is happening with Texas, nobody will accept the results. Simple as that. And hey, what are you going to do about it? And there you go. So, and if that hasn't been enough, and we have all these primarily fictitious economic data, but even that shows you it's Western world economically is in the tailspin. It's horrible. We have this situation that, well, to put it politely, IMF, International Monetary Fund, this American old organization, obviously it also primarily exercises itself in fake statistics, primarily financial, yet even they, suddenly, the IMF significantly has raised its growth forecast for the Russian economy in 2024 in its latest World Economic Outlook update released on Tuesday. And they are talking that, in terms of GDP, let me put it this way. GDP is a fake index, but it also, even by this moving of it, can actually provide you some insight. And the insight in it, that is now the Washington-based institution now expects Russian GDP to grow by 2.6 this year. Russians expected about 3%, but Russia continues to grow non-stop. And it's not only growing by means of producing a bunch of the war material and hardware. No, civilian basically sectors are booming. They are booming, from agriculture to kitchen appliances production to what have you. And so they say that it is definitely the case that Russian economy has been doing better than we were expecting, and many others were expecting. The IMF chief economist Pierre-Olivier Gorinchat, whatever how you read it, told the Financial Times, commenting on the report. And guys, remember, 2 years ago, when Russia invaded Ukraine, so to speak, while in reality went to defend, at that time, independent republics, now part of Russia, to prevent the armed forces of Ukraine to commit genocide. They would have committed genocide there. And when you look at this, and everybody, oh yeah, Russian economy is about to collapse, and sanctions and all that. And I was like a robot repeating the same thing for many years. You don't know what you're dealing with. economically and militarily. Militarily, it has been proven. I mean, as I already stated, United States Army lost their basically everything in terms of reputation and what have you. And Eric Prince, who comes up on this and is already stated, I understand. He is former, military professional. He wants to see United States strong militarily. It's impossible. That's the whole point, because obviously Russia fights and prosecutes the war of the 21st century with the economy which grows tremendously. The United States has been deindustrialized, and especially so about Europe. So what do you expect? And that's the result of it, that even IMF cannot hide anymore the objective reality. And as I already stated, the civilian sectors in Russia are booming. So there you go. And what can I say? This is what I wanted to tell you, that guys, if you're a military professional especially, you need to be very cautious when you state something, and especially when you saying that, oh yeah, Eric Prince doesn't know how to reform all this thing. Neither do I. I have some ideas. I know that United States armed forces will have to be downsized if they want to actually not disintegrate completely due to the discipline, morale, all kinds of other technical issues, because this is horrible what is happening to them. But again, United States Army never was designed to fight serious war. And simple as that. And this is what I wanted to tell you guys, and this is the 1st of February. So, and those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel, and those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee too. And I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.